Hello and welcome back guys. Today we are starting a new story titled, UA's Civil War with Discord, written by 2021 Knight. Please find author story link in the description. And now let's begin Chapter 1, Activity Midoriya's POV. Today we were all going to the assembly hall because Nizu wanted to address a situation that happened, but no one had any idea what it was. Class 1B was also heading over to the assembly hall and there were a few whispers thrown around the room once we all got there. Some of them I could hear. Does anyone have any idea what the hell is going on? Whispered the human Pikachu, Kaminari. Nope. Answered Pikachu's best buddy, the rock, Kirishima. How are we supposed to know? Zero questioned. I don't know. I thought you actually paid attention in class. Kaminari stated. Zero replied, they didn't even tell us what they would be talking about. Now that you know, calm your butt down. Oh, sorry. Kaminari apologized. I turned back to my group of friends and Uraraka was all pumped. Ida tried to calm her, while Azui was just watching with Todoroki. I thought about all those years of torment and decimation and how I didn't have any luxury of having times with my friends after I turned 4. I felt so isolated back then and I didn't trust anyone for my own good. Society is awful and they don't know what I have been through. They didn't know how the weak felt because they all had a quirk which could keep them high in society. People never notice the weak and helpless, but once I become a hero, I will change society for sure. When I finished having my thoughts, a white chimera of a dog, bear and mouse came up on stage and started his announcement. Good morning students of the hero course. I have gathered you here to assign an assessment for you all, Nizu started. People groaned at the word assessment, but Nizu continued, but it won't be a written one, but an activity. There will be 2 teams. One are the heroes and the other are the villains. I could hear people whisper about how they didn't want to be on the villains team, but of course, we were all going to train to become heroes. Who would want to be villains which we had to fight to protect this awful society? There will be a leader for each team. For the villains, once the leader is down, the heroes win. Just like in the real world where the villains only have the will to fight when their boss is still standing. For the heroes, once the leader is down, the activity will continue. There are rule books are for the leaders to read and after the assembly there will be a Q&A for the leaders to ask me any questions. Now or the leaders for each team. Everyone in classes 1A and 1B were listening careful. For the leader of the heroes is Katsuki Bakugo. The assembly hall was in uproar. People shouted that it should be changed and that Bakugo should be put in the villain team. We chose him for a reason and now for the villain's leader. Nizu calmed the crowd, the leader is Izuku Midoriya. I was shocked. Me a villain. People didn't even think I was dangerous, since I was quirkless and stuff. I could hear the gasps and whispers in the assembly hall. People started to back away from me, even my friends. I turned my head around looking into people's eyes and I saw the one thing that always reminded me of my past, pity. Something in me bubbled and I felt like I could explode, but I continued to listen to Nizu. Now the teams are on the board, but you can change teams if you want. The students started to look at the board, but people didn't want to be villains, so they moved to Kaken and away from me. Everyone from class 1A and B were on Kaken's side, leaving me alone. Even my friends went over to the other side. I would have thought that at least one of them would be on my side. It was like this in middle school as well. This is nothing new. I thought and it is the truth. When Nizu saw the teams of 39-1 he spoke up. Well, this won't do. Midoriya can't be on a team of just himself. Now can half of you mov no, it's okay Nizu. I don't want you to force anyone into becoming my teammate. I just have to work harder, I interrupted him with a bright fake smile plastered on my face. Are you sure Midoriya? Questioned Nizu. I answered back with the light in my eyes gone, but instead there was only rage. Yes, I am sure. Nizu hesitated before agreeing and handed out the rule books, of which were 500 pages thick. After handing the book, I saw Kaken skim through the book with a disgusted look on his face and close the book after 5 minutes of flicking through. While, I on the other hand, read the 500-page book repeatedly to find loopholes and marked them. By the time I finished, I was the only one in the assembly hall and it looked lonely, but I was used to this. I closed my eyes and the book while waiting for Nizu to call me. Then, suddenly on the speakers were the words I was waiting for. Midoriya, it is your turn for Q&A, Nizu's POV. I was surprised to see that no one would even join Midoriya's team and him just accepting it. I asked him if that was really what he wanted and after seeing that he only had rage in his eyes, gave me the shivers. I agreed and handed the rule books that I made myself, but I only saw Bakugo skim through it in 5 minutes. Meanwhile Midoriya looked through the rule book and seemed to be having thoughts and deep thinking about it. I smiled to myself, knowing that someone actually was reading the rule book thoroughly after all of the years of doing this activity. Bakugo only asked about damage and other stupid questions that would have been answered if he had read the rule book thoroughly. By the time I finished that Q&A, Midoriya was still looking through the book, but he had some folded pages. I didn't mind, but I really want to know what he was thinking. When I saw that he was waiting for me to call him, I turned the speaker on and told him to come. So do you have any questions which I need to answer? I asked. Midoriya stared straight into my eyes and I felt a shiver. I realized that the light in his eyes were gone and had been replaced with anger and rage. I turned to All Might, as he was in the Q&A as well, and I noticed that I wasn't the only one that noticed the change in Midoriya's eyes. Yes, I have a few questions, Nizu and All Might, but before that there is an important question I must ask before them. Okay, continue, All Might said. Midoriya continued, I will be the only villain in this activity and I plan to do things differently, unheroic, unfair and dirty. I found some loopholes in rule book so I will ask about them later, but the real question here is after hearing about what I said before, will you still be with me after this activity is over? After I teach the students of the hero course lessons through brutal and cruel ways that might cause them trauma. All Might and I were silent, but then All Might sighed and spoke. Of course, my boy. I broke your dreams once and I'm happy that I made up with you and that you are my successor. I think that maybe teaching it the brutal and cruel way might help the future generation of heroes and give them good lessons. It is better for the trauma to be now than later. They will surely push through, and if they outcast you later on, I can always move us to a different school and train you to your fullest. I added my support. I agree with All Might. If they don't get it now and overcome it with the help of teachers, it may end their hero careers later on. So you have full my support, and if needed I will help you in finding a new school later on. Midoriya looked up to us and we saw a single tear roll down his face. There was light coming back into his eyes, but the rage didn't disappear completely. Midoriya smiled towards us and wiped the tear away. That being said, Midoriya, I must ask, why was there a lot of anger and rage in your eyes? Midoriya's eyes started to dim and it looked so lifeless. All Might was worrying, but Midoriya said that he would tell us about his full past. Since I already knew about One for All, I was curious about how Midoriya's quirkless life would have been, but I was not expecting what happened next. Midoriya explained his hardships and past with all the decimation and bullying. Once we found out that his main bully was none other than Katsuki Bakugo, All Might looked like he was about to kill someone, which I thought was funny. After the little backstory, Midoriya looked better. Maybe it was because he never shared this with his friends, but slowly changed when Midoriya started to ask questions he wanted for the activity. Midoriya found a lot of loopholes, and I could tell that this year, as I was planning of recording this event, Midoriya suddenly asked, All Might, can we make a video of when I met you on the rooftop? I want to expose this horrible society. Of course, my boy. At this point I was wondering about what the rooftop thing is, but I think I have a theory on what it might be, since Midoriya was quirkless. If it did happen, I am glad that Midoriya didn't go down any of those paths, but I should be prepared for what might happen after the event. Chapter 2, Preparations. Midoriya's POV. Today is the first day of preparations out of the 4 days that Nizu gave us. I have been running up and down everywhere getting ready. It is really hard of preparing everything in only 4 days, but at least classes were cancelled for the week, since there are 4 days for preparations and 3 days for the actually activity. I see all the other team's members all just resting and not evening planning. Just before I headed to the support course classroom, I heard Kakin yell that they could just beat my butt, but I don't think that it will be that easy. I plan to go wild and even use this as an opportunity for going beyond my limits. After getting my costume and support items I would be using, such as 10 small daggers, 2 hand knives daggers, 1 handgun and a sniper, along with some paint bullets, I saw my normal friend group walking around the school like there was no event. I walked towards their direction and Uraraka was the first to notice. "Deku-kun, do you want to come hang out with us? We were planning of going to a cafe near the school." "Yeah, you should join us," Midoriya-chan Karo Azui added. I rolled my eyes mentally knowing that I have to continue to act like my normal self. "Sorry guys, but I have to get things ready." I bowed. I have only 3 more days and I still have so much to do. Todoroki questioned, "Are you sure?" "I think it is better to just give up, Midoriya. You have the numbers against you and wouldn't it be better to just give up?" The whole group faced Todoroki and there was a moment of silence. Did he really think I didn't have a chance at all? Ida stated, "Todoroki, if Midoriya just gave up, the teachers would not be able to give us feedback and grades for the activity." I gritted my teeth behind a bright fake smile and agreed with Ida. After that little conversation, I excused myself for the group and Todoroki's words were starting to repeat in my head. "I will prove that I will go plus ultra and make people fear me as a villain." During the first days of preparations, I learned how to handle a gun and knives. I went through all the notes of all the classmates in Class 1B that I took about their quirk, such as their strengths, weaknesses, and how to take them down, even though I already memorized them, but it's better to double-check. I gave some analysis to Nizu, so that it may help other heroes take down some villains on the loose. I trained my quirk, ate and slept. That was pretty much how the days went. Now that it was the last day of preparations, I had to set up the fake city we would be using for the activity. I putted on my villain costume and it was pretty much a suit though. Hatsum wanted to talk to me about a new invention she made, so she saw my costume and commented on it. "Thanks, but I have to go to the fake city and plant some of the inventions you created." Hatsum's eyes glittered and replied, "Oh yeah. Use my babies as much as you like." "Sure, well I better get going, Hatsum. I'll see you later," I said as I walked out of the room and closed the door. "Hopeful," I whispered. I walked over to see Nizu and All Might in Nizu's office and they saw me enter. "My boy," All Might called out while standing, "you look like a villain indeed. How are the preparations going?" "Everything is going as planned and I'm ready to go the fake city to set everything up." Nizu butted into the conversation and spoke, "That's great. Then we can go tomorrow." "Okay, well then, I will be going to the dorm and rest." Nizu and All Might looked confused and All Might asked, "Why young Midoriya, it's only 10 a.m. I explained, I was planning on staying up for the whole 3 days, so that I won't be able to give the heroes any rest. Of course I will sleep tomorrow, but it's better to get it all now. Nizu and All Might nodded their heads and I headed towards the dorm. Once I got in the dorms, I saw that no one was there, but I didn't care. I was tired and headed towards my dorm. When I enter, I closed the door and changed into my normal clothes, setting up things that I might need in the activity on my desk, like my villain costume. I laid down on the bed and I instantly fell into a deep slumber. The next morning, I woke up at 6:30 a.m. and I started to get ready for the day ahead of me. Once I finished, I quietly rushed to get to Nizu's office. I managed to get out without making a sound. Aizawa-sensei should already know that I would be with All Might and Nizu getting the fake city ready for the activity tomorrow. I decided leave that place alone and it took only a few hours to set up the city and I think that it would be all ready for tomorrow. I went to find a random bed in one of the fake houses and slept in it until the event started. The one thing I thought of before I let my drowsiness caught me was Fear Discord of the Misfits. Chapter 3, Revealed Heroes POV, the hero team made it to the fake city and there seemed like there was nothing wrong with it, but little did they know what was waiting for them. Mina looked around studying her surroundings and asked, "So, where do you think Midoriya will be?" Momo answered Mina's question, "We don't know, but let's start and look for him, right Bakugo?" Yeah. Do whatever, but when you find that shitty Deku, just beat him beat. Teacher's POV, all of the UA teachers were in the observing room to watch how the students would do and were expected to stay in the room until all 3 days were up, or when the event ended. Nizu was sipping his tea while the teachers were making bets towards which team would win. "I bet the hero team will win," Midnight exclaimed. Vlad King replied, "Isn't the outcome clear?" "No, it isn't. Young Midoriya hasn't given up yet, and when there is the willpower, there is always hope." All Might commented. "So you are betting on Midoriya, All Might?" asked Aizawa. "Yes, I am." Nizu joined into the conversation. "Yes, I also think that Midoriya is going to win." All of the other teachers were confused why the intelligent Chimera chose to place his bet on Midoriya, when he is outnumbered, but slowly their attention moved towards the hero's action of getting into the HQ, Hero's POV. Now everyone on the hero's team was moving towards their temporary home HQ for the activity. Ida noticed that there was something in front of the door and it looked like a DVD. Ida picked it up and handed it to Todoroki. "I found this in front of the door. What do we do with this?" Ida asked, pointing to the DVD now in Todoroki's hand. Mina snatched it from Todoroki and shouted, "Well, there is only one thing we can do with it. We have to play it." Mina quickly played the DVD on the TV in the HQ, but it was not what they were expecting. The DVD had a pre-recording of Midoriya. Midoriya slowly spoke with venom, "Hello heroes. I am Discord of the Misfits and this city's villain. I advise you to leave this place at once or suffer the consequences. But some people must be wondering why I am villain. Well, shall I explain it to you? It's simple. It's because this society is so unfair and corrupt. Now, for my backstory, it all started when I turned. That was when my whole life changed." The heroes were on the edge of their seats wanting to know more about their classmate and fellow hero course student Izuku Midoriya, while Bakugo was panicking about what Midoriya was about to show and tell them. Midoriya continued, "I was a late bloomer, so I was called quirkless until the start of the UA exam. So imagine how this twisted and horrible society treated me. Some people might think that society tried to protect me, but how wrong they were. People treated me like an outcast, a different race that was lower than them and a worthless, little Deku. Right Kaken?" At the mention of his nickname, people turned towards Bakugo, who was still listening intently to the DVD that Midoriya had sent them. "I was so weak in people's eyes, like my mother, which didn't believe that I could be a hero, and my childhood friend, who thought he was better than everyone and everyone was below him. No believed me and thought I was just a bug in their lives. Even All Might told me that I should give up on being a hero." Midoriya said while playing the scene of when All Might and himself on the rooftop and All Might telling him to give up on his dreams because he was quirkless, but in some realities All Might caught after me after trying to help someone who was getting attacked form a villain, saying that I could become a hero. After that he trained me after noticing that I have a late quirk blooming, but some other realities, he didn't and I became Discord. But that wasn't the only reason why I became a villain. All of the hero team's members gasped at this. They didn't know what to think of the symbol of peace in that moment. They saw a pre-recording of the symbol of peace, All Might, the #1 hero crushing Midoriya's dreams. Teacher's POV, it was deadly silent, from the shock of All Might crushing Midoriya's dreams like it was nothing. All Might broke the silence with the comment, "It's scary of how close Discord could have been formed." "What do you mean, All Might? Explain." Aizawa shouted after hearing that his own student had his own dreams crushed by the person he aspired to be. "Well, it is exactly how you heard it, but in this reality, I was able to meet young Midoriya again and train him 10 months before the entrance exam." All Might explained. Nizu spoke, "And I am glad you did. If you didn't he could have went down the path of chaos and then the world as we know it would be gone." "What do you mean Nizu?" asked Snipe. You will find out during this activity, snipe. Answered Nizu. Hero's POV, the video of Midoriya continued, well, now another reason why I walk on this path of chaos is because of school. Bullies physically and mentally tormented. The teacher would turn a blind eye and quirks were used on like I was some kind of dummy. But there was one person who always bullied me and encouraged others to do the same. He even told me to take a swan dive over a roof and pray for a quirk in my next life. Midoriya laughed manically, and at the last part he had such a cold and demonic voice that made the heroes shiver right down their spine. His name. Oh, I'm pretty sure that you all know him. He's the famous Katsuki Bakugo. Now shall we continue with the event? Also, this video has been played through the city, but never mind that. Let the games begin. The DVD stopped playing and people turned towards Bakugo for answers, but he didn't pay any attention to it because he was still in shock of Midoriya calling him by his full name with a demonic and cold voice towards him. It was the first time that Midoriya called him by his full name. Teacher's POV. While teachers were watching the heroes' HQ turn into chaos, some were frozen from all of the surprises that Midoriya had revealed and some felt pity for Midoriya now knowing his past. You know, this explains a lot about how he reacts to Bakugo and how he kept breaking his bones at the start of year when he used his quirk. He couldn't control it. Midnight voiced out. After hearing about his past, I think it would be better to have him have some sessions with me, so that he will be mentally alright. Hound Dog suggested. Nizu reassured the teachers, don't worry, All Might and I have had a talk with him and he seems to be fine for now, but you might need those sessions for other students when this is all over. What do you mean by that, Nizu? Asked Recovery Girl. I have given Discord my permission to teach the heroes lessons through the brutal and cruel way of a hero's job. It is better to do it now than later, since while they are still in this school and, us, the teachers can help them overcome the trauma that might appear. Better now than later, since the LOV is still targeting Class 1A. Nizu responded. I see, I might have to save those sessions then. Hound Dog concluded. Chapter 4, The Beginning Hero's POV, Bakugo, is what Midoriya said is true. Was Midoriya treated like how he did? How are you still in this school if this was true? Is that how you started to call Midoriya, Deku? Kirishima interrupted all the questions by saying, we don't know if it's true or not. I mean, he even said that All Might crushed his dream. So it might be fake, right Bakubro? Everyone was waiting for Bakugo's answer, but instead, they all heard an explosion and saw civilian bots running around. The villain Discord had exploded an apartment building, which had 13 civilian bots in it. The hero teams went into their friend groups and split it up to rescue the bots from the fire and put it out. Third-person POV, Discord was on top of building in front of Heroes HQ, and follows the group of Momo, Jiro, and Hagakure. They were searching the area for any dangers and were alone, but were having a normal chat. Discord pointed the snipe he had towards Hagakure because it would have been a bother of not seeing a person, so while she was still wearing her hero costume, which looked like floating clothes. By invisible girl. He whispered and Jiro could hear it, but before she had time to say anything, Discord shot Hagakure in the heart. This didn't get unnoticed by Momo. She created a shield large enough to fit her and Jiro, but since Discord took out the person who he thought would be troubling, he moved on to people with long range or sensory quirks. Jiro was in front of him, but she was protected from him by Momo's shield, so he had to get her later. Ectoplasm later took Hagakure into the dead room where she would continue to watch the activity for the rest of the time, until it was finished. Discord jumped to roof with one for all at 35%. He saw Shoji with Tokoyami and Koda on a rooftop facing the other way. Discord took out his handguns in each hand and aimed towards Koda and Shoji, while still jumping onto roofs. Once Discord had his targets locked, he shot the paintball at the same time and killed both Shoji and Koda at the same time. After hearing the gun shot, Tokoyami turned his body towards the sound he heard it from, which was behind him, and summoned Dark Shadow. Though once he turned around he didn't see anyone, but Dark Shadow did. Discord was right below them, running close to the floor. Before Discord could stag him, Dark Shadow protected Tokoyami. Thanks Dark Shadow. I didn't even notice him. Thank Tokoyami. Dark Shadow gave a thumbs up and replied, no problem, but DMN, Midoriya could become an assassin with those quiet moves. Thanks. Discord said as he ran towards Tokoyami again at 35%. Discord dashed round in circles around Tokoyami, trying to get him dizzy, and it worked. Tokoyami getting dizzy and started to fall towards the ground and land on his butt. Dark Shadow, also getting dizzy because he was also trying to keep track of Discord, fall along with Tokoyami. At that moment, Midoriya rushed towards Tokoyami and knocked him unconscious. Dark Shadow returned into Tokoyami and Discord tied Tokoyami up, while Ectoplasm took Koda and Shoji to join Hagakure. Discord pressed the backup button that Tokoyami had, alerting his teammates that he was in trouble. Discord quickly found a place to hide, leaving the button behind, since it has a tracker for the heroes. Once finding a good spot, Discord set up his rifle and waited for the other heroes to arrive. After 5 minutes of waiting, Discord saw all of the heroes head towards the roof where Tokoyami was tied up unconscious. Once all the heroes were on the roof, Discord quickly to aim at Tokoyami as people were discussing how and why Discord did this and not just kill him off like Hagakure, Shoji and Koda. Teachers POV, after watching Discord shoot Hagakure and retreating, the teachers were confused of why he wouldn't just kill the rest of the group. Nizu thought out loud, maybe he wanted to teach them more lessons with the other members of the group. Maybe, but what is he going to do now? Doesn't he have to get rid of all of the heroes before the 3 days end? If he is going at this rate, he won't complete his task. Present Mike questioned in confusion. Just watch Mike, because I think Problem Child may be doing something after. Aizawa told Mike. When the teachers saw Discord sneaking up on the group of 3 boys and readying his handguns, while pointing the guns to Shoji and Koda's heads with a calm facial expression, they knew he would kill them. Once they watched the one-sided battle unfold, and the tying up of Tokoyami, also the pressing the backup button, Nizu knew what he was going to do next. Why would he press that button? Mike yelled. Everyone covered their ears, while Aizawa cancelled his quirk halfway the question. The heroes made their way towards Tokoyami and Discord was already aiming to his target. It is quite simple, Present Mike. He plans to kill Tokoyami while the heroes are watching, making them lose some of their will to fight. Nizu explained. Just like 1Q, Discord shot Tokoyami in the neck, killing him with paintball. The heroes turned towards the direction it came from, but before anything happened a small grenade was thrown at them and exploded red paint to the people who were to close. The grenade eliminated Awaze, Hananuki, Shishida and Kurwaro from Class 1B and Jiro, Sato and Mineta from Class 1A. What? That was overkill for a hand grenade. It took out 7 people. That's 11 people today. Present Mike screamed. Aizawa replied, well, it was the heroes' fault for not checking the area for traps and stuff. They had Shishida who could have smelt Problem Child and warned the other heroes, also all the heroes shouldn't be there for backup. Heroes POV, after the grenade, the heroes saw green lighting surrounding a person was running away at a fast speed, which they couldn't catch up to. How could we lose 11 extras after just a few hours of playing this dumb activity? Shouted Bakugo. Calm down Baku bro, we were just not ready. Kirishima reasoned. All of the heroes headed towards their HQ for rest and sleep, but in the middle of the night, when most of the heroes were asleep, explosions started. Chapter 5, Diversion Heroes POV, everyone in the HQ groaned at the sounds of the explosion. Midoriya, no Discord, just had to blow up more bombs in the middle of the night, when they were all supposed to rest and gain energy for tomorrow. The heroes that were sleeping, quickly got ready to head out to the danger. There were 4 places that were in ruins and Bakugo started to yell orders. Okay shitty extras, there are 4 places that Deku blew up, so split up into groups, but leave 4 extras behind to patrol around the area for shitty Deku. Put out the blasted fire and save the god DMN bots. At this point, formed their own groups. The groups were, first group, Bakugo, Kirishima, Shiro, Mina, Kaminari and Ojiro. Second group, Uraraka, Todoroki, Azui, Ida, Momo and Aoyama. Third group, Kendo, Monoma, Komori, Tetsu, Kodai and Yanagi. Fourth group, Shota, Suntory, Tsuburaba, Fukudashi, Tokage and Shiozaki. Patrolling group, Kaibara, Kamakiri, Bondo and Rin. The places were in 4 different directions. The first group headed north, the second went south, the third went west and the fourth went east. The patrolling group walked around the areas where the heroes weren't covering. They decided to split up by themselves to cover more ground, but little did that know, Discord was right on their trail. Group 1's POV, Bakugo's group were running towards the blown-up business building in the north. The building at least had 30 levels and there were civilian bots in all of the levels. Bakugo, Shiro and Kirishima ran into the building in caution. There was a lot of the ruins and damage the blast caused to the building. Mina, Kaminari and Ojiro evacuated all the bots near the building to a safer place. Mina was yelling to the civilian bots to move out of the way and pointed the way of the evocation. Ojiro and Kaminari helped the civilian bots who were under the rubble and got them to safety. Bakugo and his small group ran up the stairs and saw civilian bots. Kirishima and Shiro grabbed 5 bots each and headed back down outside, leaving Bakugo by himself, but he didn't mind. All he could think about was why Deku went out of all the trouble of setting up bombs in the middle of the night. Bakugo stayed on his guard thinking that Discord would target him next, since he was the one of the so-called reasons why he turned into a villain. After 2 hours, Bakugo and his group finished putting out the fire and making sure that the bots were safe. Later, the group headed back to the HQ early in the morning. They were all tired and wanted to get into their beds, but Bakugo was filled with anger. Deku had the nerve to wake him up in the middle of the night, and not even attack him. When then they got back to the HQ, they found something unexpected. Group 2's POV, Todoroki's group headed to the building which was huge. It was collapsing and civilian bots were panicking. Momo, Aoyama and Ida calmed the civilian bots and took them far away from the building, while Todoroki froze the whole building and supported it with ice, so the building wouldn't fully collapse with the bots in it. Uraraka, Azui and Todoroki went into the building to search for civilian bots. Uraraka would use her quirk on them and Azui would wrap her tongue around them and carefully drag them to the ground. Todoroki on the other hand made a staircase of ice for the bots to walk down towards safety. Everyone was still tired, but they had to continue their work. When everything was done and they were heading back to the HQ, they were the group there, but after letting their guard down, they heard a gunshot. Red paint hit its targets, killing Momo and Aoyama. The rest of the group faced towards the building in front of them and saw on top of the roof was Discord holding 2 handguns. Not a second wasted, Discord ran in the other direction and headed west, leaving behind the Deku squad, in shock. Teachers POV, the teachers were woken up to watch the group's rescue and put out the fires caused by Discord and commented on how they solved the situation. Wow, Todoroki's group is having a faster time than the others. Midnight pointed out. Aizawa replied, of course. He has an ice quirk and they have Uraraka, who can make the bots float and Azui, who can use her tongue to help the bots down. I think that those 2 work got together in these situations. Snipe added, but the other groups are also doing a good job of acting in this situation. It also seems that Bakugo has his guard up. Maybe he is thinking that Discord will target him next. All Might said, that might be so, since he is a threat because he is powerful and because he was the one to push Discord into becoming like this. I wonder how the other events in this activity go, but I hope it is a good one. Nizu voiced. Present Mike whispered asked, since it was in the middle of the night, aren't you recording this whole event Nizu? Yes, I am. I think I should tell Midoriya, I mean Discord to turn it up a notch. What do you think? Nizu responded. Fine, but make sure that if you do, send all of the students to my office for sessions. Hound Dog announced. Just make sure that the students don't get hurt too badly. Demanded Recovery Girl. Nizu asked, so, are you all okay with it? Everyone in the room nodded and Nizu just smiled manically, while laughing. Okay, I will tell Discord when day 2 hits. Midoriya's POV, everything so far has gone as planned. I blew up 4 different places, far from each other to get the heroes split up, and I plan to kill off some more people to PSS off Katsuki a bit more. I saw that the patrolling group split into groups by themselves, which I thought was stupid. They had the advantage in numbers, but they just gave that up, just to cover more ground. Idiots. I followed Kaibara and saw him walking around in an alleyway while yawning. He didn't look like he was really paying attention, since his eyes were foggy. I took that as my chance, but since I wanted it to be quick, silent and worth teaching, I snuck behind him and slit his throat, while covering his mouth, so he won't make a sound. Once I did, he turned around and saw me. At this point of time, Kaibara fell onto the ground and had his widened eyes stare at my toxic, glowing eyes. Kaibara backed away from me with fear in his eyes. I spoke while staring deep into his eyes, let a lesson be learnt. Never let your guard down. He hesitantly nodded his head while I turned my back on him and started to walk away. Ectoplasm will pick you up soon, and please continue to learn lessons through the activity, in the room with other students. His eyes started to calm down and was about to say something, but before he said anything, I was gone. Next I found Kamakiri walking through a park. Like Kaibara, he wasn't really patrolling careful and looked really tired, thanks to the stunt I pulled. I quickly dashed towards him with 25% of 1 for all and stabbed him in the heart. When I started my dash, he reacted and turned towards my direction, but I immediately brought my dagger into his heart. Once I did that, I hopped backwards and Kamakiri just looked down to where the paint caught him and back to me. He frowned and just laid down onto the ground, since he was now dead. I went up to him to quickly grab my dagger, but while I was doing that he spoke to me. That was not cool or fair. At least fight head on. Fair. Cool. Really? I am the villain in this activity, but he was talking about fairness. Seriously. I answered back while walking away with a glare, this world isn't fair or cool and villains couldn't care less. It was your fault for letting your guard down, but I applaud you for your quick reaction. He was speechless as I moved on to my new target, Bondo. Bondo was patrolling in an area near a school. I saw him sitting on a bench and looked like was having a little nap. This is stupid. I'm just gonna kill him in his sleep. I threw my pocket daggers that I was hiding in my suit at the sleeping hero. It hit his side and he woke up. Bondo looked at me a while I was walking away. I let him live, but took his backup button when I was collecting my daggers. I let him live because it was only a matter of time of when he will bleed out to death, since not all villain immediately kill the hero when they get a chance. The other heroes were helling and rescuing the bots and were far away. No one could help him. He was pretty much dead already. He stared at me blankly as I ran across the city to find the last person on the patrolling team, Rin. Rin was near the east of the city, so I planned on getting rid of some people there as well. I quickly ran towards Rin, and since I could hear the panic from the civilian bots near the area, I just used my gun and shot him, since the other heroes won't be able to hear the gun because of all the crackling of the flames. With that, Rin was killed. Discord. What are you trying to pull off with all of the bombs? Rin whispered, since he couldn't let his teammates know when he was dead. I crossed my arms and responded to his question, since you're dead and you can't tell your other teammates, I will tell you. Rin listened closely, trying to understand my thinking. Have you heard the quote, while the cat's away, the mice will play? I asked. He nodded in confusion. Well then, while the heroes are away from the HQ for their missions, I plan to do something with it. I continued with my smug grin on my face. He seemed to understand and I sighed. I better move on, so I walked away and headed towards the heroes in charge of putting out the fire for the east. I saw Shoda, Suntory, Tsuburaba, Fukudashi, Tokage and Shiozaki. I thought of who would be a greater threat to me and decided to get rid of half of their team. They are not on guard and have no attention to anything else but the bots and the building. I saw Shoda, Suntory, and Tsuburaba evocating the bots and the rest of the team running into the building. Once the retrieving team came down from the building with some civilian bots, I decided to get rid of Shoda, since his twice impact would hurt Tokage, because it is troubling with all of her body parts separated to kill her, and Tsuburaba, since his quirk is solid air and it could be an obstacle that I didn't want to do. I threw a grenade at them and it blew up, killing some bots and the targets, but there was a bonus. I ended up also eliminating Fukiashi. The civilian bots started to panic once again, but for the remaining heroes, they were also losing hope. They stood there, frozen by the deaths of their comrades, and didn't know what to do. How could they save the civilian bots in the building with 2 people? They were tired, I could see that. That was also why I planned to stay up for the whole activity. Now it was time to do my objective for the night. Chapter 6, No Rest Teacher's POV, wow. Discord has killed 8 more people, leaving the number of heroes to present, Mike exclaimed. Aizawa added, I'm pretty sure Problem Child will get rid of all of them in this activity, by the looks of it. Am I correct, Nizu? Yes, you are, Aizawa. But I have to say, the heroes on patrol weren't really focusing on their jobs, Vlad King. Nizu spoke. Yes, I will change that once this is over. Vlad King agreed while nodding his head. Also it seems that I really do need some sessions for the kids, Hound Dog. Hound Dog nodded, yes, it is better for all of them to get it. You can just see the Eastern heroes in despair after the grenade was thrown. Both civilian and heroes were killed. They are going to have trauma, since this might happen in reality as well. Well, that's the lesson of, you can't save everyone, I guess. Snipe pointed out. Don't worry everyone. I am sure that Midoriya will teach them more lessons. Nizu said. While the teachers were having a chat about the brutal way of how Discord killed 8 heroes, All Might was worrying about Midoriya's mental health. Nizu then used the intercom that he had gave Midoriya before the activity and spoke through it. The teachers and the dead heroes could hear through it, but Nizu was the only one that could speak through it. Midoriya, I give you permission to take it up a notch. Of course, Nizu. Midoriya's POV, I headed to the heroes HQ to complete my objective, but all of a sudden I got a message from Nizu telling me that I could take it up a notch. I agreed and planned a lesson to teach when I reached the west of the city. Once I made it to the HQ, I saw that no one was around, so I did what any other person might do. I entered through the front door. Once I pushed the door, I was disappointed that they didn't lock the door. I headed towards the control rooms and I hacked into their systems, shutting down traps and alarms. Since my objective was done, I headed out and saw the Todoroki's group approaching through the surveillance cameras of the city. I decided that I should kill Momo and Aoyama, leaving the others for later. I exited the Hero HQ and went on top of roof readying my guns. Once Todoroki and his group came up to the HQ, Discord immediately shot Aoyama and Momo in the head with the red paint bullets. The remaining members of the Todoroki's group faced towards me, but I quickly hopped away towards the west. I reached the west side of the city and saw that the heroes were done with their mission, so I decided to teach a lesson. I grabbed some civilian bots and this didn't get unnoticed by the group of, hey. Let those bots go, Discord, demanded Kendo. I answered while pointing my guns, one at the heroes and one towards the hostages. How about a no? They're my hostages, as you can see. Holding hostages are unmanly. Tetsu proclaimed. I frowned but didn't say anything. There was silence for a few minutes, but it broke with my deal. Give me 2 heroes and I will let them go. The heroes were shocked and turned to each other to discuss the problem at hand, but eventually they gave me a tied-up Yanagi and Komori. How stupid. Heroes shouldn't surrender even if there are hostages. I mentally sighed and saw Yanagi and Komori heading towards me, while the rest of the group stood back. There, now can we have the bots back? Asked Kendo. I fired my guns at both the two tied-up heroes, killing them and the bots at my mercy. So, but I don't take prisoners. I replied and ran off. The heroes were stunned. They willingly listened to the villain and ended up sacrificing their teammates' lives in vain. They let their friends get killed. I also gave them a few more gifts before my leaving, and they were 4 grenades. They exploded and killed more bots. I went back into hiding in the dark, planning for my next plan. Teacher's POV, there was only one word in the teacher's minds, and that word was overkill. Discord just showed the heroes the lesson of, you can't save everyone and never surrender to a villain who is more powerful than you, by killing the hostages and the heroes who were given to him. He also added 4 more grenades to cause the bots into panic. Well, that was chaotic and disappointing. Commented Lunch Rush. Tell me about it. Replied Present Mike, but at least he taught them a lesson. Nizu laughed manically, All Might, I need him as my private student. Can I take him from you, Aizawa? Hell no. Aizawa exclaimed, if I do that, then there will be a Nizu Jr. and I'm pretty sure no staff wants that. Yep, that's correct. I don't want traumatized students into my office because you and Midoriya pulled something. Hound Dog said. But it would be interesting. Nizu complained, wait, I'm principal of this school. I can do whatever I want. The teachers yelled in unison, Nizu, no. Nizu, yes. Replied the white chimera. Heroes POV, the rest of the heroes gathered back towards to the HQ, where they were met with ectoplasm in front of the door. He told them about the 12 deaths in the one night. The hero team was beyond shocked, but it made Bakugo angry. What the F, shitty Deku decides to blow up motherfucking buildings and attack these shitty extras, but not me. I make that coward come out, screamed Bakugo. Bakubro, calm down. It's like 3 a.m. in the morning. I think we should head back inside and get some rest. Kirishima reasoned. The whole team went into the HQ and took turns of sleeping. Third POV, the heroes couldn't get enough sleep because stuff started to happen, like more bombing. Some of them didn't even get a break, and that was exactly what Discord wanted. The heroes were running place to place and were starting to lose their patience. Without patience, the heroes may start a little fight between them. Also, it would get them short-tempered and they won't think straight when they are face to face with Discord. By noon, Discord was watching from the shadows and was planning something spectacular for the night to come, but before that, he had to at least kill a hero. To make sure that it will increase the hero's stress and become fuel to their drowsiness. Midoriya used 35% of his power and did his own little patrol around his area. There he found, the human with a tail and a tape dispenser, as Bakugo called him. He was trying to keep his energy for the other things he had planned, so he reloaded his gun and pointed it to Tail Man in cellophane. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger, but the outcome was different from the others. Zero was not able to dodge the bullet, but just in time, Ojiro used his tail to push him forward to dodge. Ojiro had caught sight of Discord in a small alleyway and followed after him. Discord led Ojiro to a dead end. Give up, Discord. You're trapped and have nowhere to run. Now come with me peacefully. Ojiro told Discord. Discord smirked, are you sure, Tail Man? I mean, I can do this instead of running. Discord pressed a button in his hands and multiple grenades near Ojiro blasted at him. The grenades were some traps that Discord had set up on the 4th day of preparations. Ojiro screamed and heroes around the area tried to find the scream. By the time they arrived, Discord was gone, but Ojiro was unconscious, covered in red paint. The paint looked so much like BLD, so in the hero's eyes it looked like the alleyway had a massacre in it. The paint was splattered onto the walls and the floor. The heroes were disgusted and couldn't do anything but go back and retire into their beds, since soon enough ectoplasm collected Ojiro. Teacher's POV, when Ojiro dodged the bullet, teachers started to applaud, since he was the only one so far to do it. Present Mike even cheered for him, but only for him to end up into a trap. Once all of the grenades activated and they could hear Ojiro's screams in pain, Midnight said, "Ouch, that's gotta hurt." Present Mike and Recovery Girl nodded to the statement. "At least his pain tolerates will be higher," Aizawa said. Recovery Girl questioned while hitting Aizawa with her cane, "Is that all you care about, Aizawa? But if he has a high pain tolerates, he can continue fighting when he is in pain." Aizawa answered. "But Aizawa, the scene in the alleyway after the bombing looks horrible," Hound Dog added, "and the students will find it after hearing the scream. That's probably going to give them nightmares and trauma." Nizu joined in the conversation and said, "Well, that was what we are here for. To help them overcome them before their pro-hero careers." Nizu is right. Agreed All Might. "But I wonder what Discord will do next." "Don't you?" asked the rat Satan. Chapter 7, Assassination, Dead Heroes POV, "Welcome Ojiro, to the dead room," exclaimed Siro. "What do you mean?" asked Ojiro. Momo answered, "Once you get killed by Discord, you come here and continue to watch the activity." Ojiro looked around the room and I found everyone who was killed by Discord in the room. Some were talking to each other, but most of them were watching how the activity was going to happen. Ojiro strolled up to Shoji and Koda to sit with them and watch the show, but before he got the chance he was stopped by Jiro. "Are you okay?" questioned Jiro. "The way you were killed looked like it really hurt." "It's okay. I should have searched my surroundings before I followed him, but I have noticed that some people have fear in their eyes when they see Discord on the screen." "Why is that?" replied Ojiro. "Ah, you've noticed. It's just how Discord killed them was a bit traumatizing, you know. Even the image of you getting blown up by those grenades was a bit traumatizing," shivered Jiro. "It's like how he killed all the patrolling team on the first night. He was so quiet and careful that no one noticed him. He even let Bondo bleed to his death without any treatment, letting him suffer with his injuries, knowing that no one could save him because they were too busy rescuing the civilian bots." "Who knew Midoriya could do that?" asked Tokoyami. Mineta replied, "I didn't." Hagakure added, "I didn't either." No one would. They continued to chat until everyone heard Sato and turned to the screen where it was in the middle of the night and Discord was sneaking into the HQ, third-person POV. Discord snuck through the heroes' HQ from the roof. He tiptoed down to the bedrooms and decided to kill more heroes on that fateful night. Thanks to the hacking of the system of the other night, there was no alarms that Discord had to worry about, but only the one he needed to be careful of is getting caught by the cameras or any hero that was awake. Once entering into a bedroom of heroes, which had 2 beds for 2 heroes per room, Discord could choose who he wanted to kill before the battle ahead. The first bedroom he entered was a room of a sleeping steel man and copycat. Discord decided the copycat, Monoma, should be the first to go, so he covered Monoma's month, making sure when he wakes up he won't be able to set alarm the heroes and slit his throat. This made Monoma jolt awake and turn towards Discord's glowing, toxic eyes. Monoma was shaking and was paralyzed by the piercing green eyes staring deep in his. Discord pulled one finger up towards his lips signaling Monoma to be quiet and started to head to the door, closing with door without a sound. Monoma was frozen, but when that door closed he decided to act dead, since he was killed. Monoma was still on edge and really wanted to warn Tetsu, but couldn't due to the rules. Thinking of how Discord killed him a moment ago, terrified him, but Discord was moving on to his other targets. Next was Kendo and Kodai's room. Both of them sleeping peacefully because they were tired of all the running around there did. Discord didn't know who to kill, so he just did eeny, meeny, miny, mo to decide the outcome. Once he finished, he landed on Kodai, so he covered her mouth and stabbed her heart. It made the girl yelp, but it was not loud enough to wake the girl next to her. She stared into Discord's eyes in disbelief, but before she could say anything, he disappeared from the room and headed to the next room. Kodai had the scene on repeat in her mind, and playing it over and over again made her extremely uncomfortable, but she was wondering how got into the HQ anyway. Dead, Heroes POV, when they saw Discord creeping into the HQ, most people were thinking, how did he even get in without setting off the alarms, but Rin thought out loud. So that's what he was doing. Komori reacted and asked, what are you talking about, Rin? Rin questioned, you know, how on the first night he blew up the 4 buildings in different directions. I remember. It was the night where he killed the civilian bots that were hostage, even though we did what we were told and gave Komori and me up to him and killed us. He even went overboard and threw 4 grenades. Kanagi answered. Yeah, that night where you, I, and others died. Rin confirmed. He explained, well, as I was patrolling and Discord came and killed me, but I asked him why he was blowing up the 4 buildings in different directions, because I thought it was a bit weird. Since I was dead, he asked me, have you heard of, when the cat's away, the mice will play? I nodded and he told me that he wanted to do something in the HQ. So, my guess is that Discord hacked into the system and disabled all of the alarms. The group understood and some thought it was smart plan. They continued to watch Discord until they saw him stop at Kendo and Kodai's room. They saw him trying to choose who should live and who should die. The group was wondering how he was going to decide, but they didn't expect him to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Some people face-palmed and others sighed. People from Class 1A thought, really Midoriya? Really? Even as a villain. Class 1A normally saw this when Midoriya couldn't decide what he wanted for lunch, but now he was doing this to decide who he wanted to kill. They sighed. Teacher's POV, so this is why he wanted them to get tired, and this also explains why he wanted to hack into the Heroes system. Said Snipe. Ah, yes. This is a lesson of, nowhere is safe. I mean villains do sometimes track heroes and kill them in their own homes. Nizu pointed out. They continued to watch until Discord was doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Aizawa, what the hell is he doing? Asked Vlad King. I don't know. Picking who he should kill with a game. Answered Aizawa. Nizu butted in and told them, just watch to find out. Third-person POV, Discord entered Tsunatori and Shiozaki's room and stared at them for a few seconds after deciding who he wanted to kill. He walked over to Tsunatori and slit her throat, with his hand over her mouth. She widened her eyes and she slowly mouthed, how? Discord didn't even bother to answer her in her state of confusion and fear. He moved on towards Mina's room. She was alone, since Hagakure was taken out at the very beginning and it was just easier for him to kill her. He did the same action he did for Kodai and stabbed her in the heart. After feeling the dagger on her chest, Mina jumped up seeing Discord sitting on the ground looking at her with toxic eyes. She sat back down and pointed to the door with a, go and do your job, way. Discord followed what her face was showing and went out of the room. Mina on the other hand started to shake after he left. She had put on a strong face for the boy, to show that she was not afraid, but she was lying to herself. In the moment of her looking into his eyes, she only saw lifeless and raging eyes. It was like it was the only thing that kept him going. She faced towards the door, not hearing a sound. She decided that now she was out of the game, she would be able to get some good sleep. Discord moved towards the room with Kirishima and Kaminari in it. He decided to kill both of them, but he moved over to Kaminari first and repeated the steps of assassinating the heroes in their sleep. He slit Kaminari's throat and he woke up in a jolt. He saw Discord in front of him and was going to kill his best bud. He couldn't do anything about it and watched the steps of how Discord killed him. He watched in horror as the red paint on the dagger ran down Kirishima's throat, waking him up. Once Kirishima was awoken, he saw Discord and Kaminari awake and staring at him. I'm dead, aren't I? Kirishima stuttered. Discord nodded his head and Kaminari was petrified. Discord walked towards the door and looked back towards his classmates, but they were only silently staring at each other. He walked out the door and decided to leave behind a little surprise. After leaving behind the surprise, Discord left the building and went into the shadows and rested for a bit, before the last battle would begin. Chapter 8, Overflowing Emotions. Heroes POV. Once morning hit, the heroes thought it was weird that Discord didn't cause any ruckus in the middle, but when Todoroki answered the door to Ectoplasm, who asked to enter to retrieve the dead, but no one understood what he meant, until they heard a scream from Kendo's room. Everyone rushed into the room and saw Kodai dead on her bed. That's when they decided to check other rooms. They barged into Mina's room when she wasn't responding their calls and found her dead. They charged into Kirishima and Kaminari's room, when they also didn't respond, and found them laying on their beds, also dead. Monoma's body was carried down, but Tetsu and Shiozaki did the same for Tsunatori. They collected all the dead bodies and laid them out on the floor. The mood of the morning just went downhill and people were wondering how Discord could have even entered the building. Some were terrified of how they were at Discord's mercy, but he chose not to kill them. Deku. Such a coward that he had TOF sneak into the HQ, Bakugo raged. Deku had to pull off these stupid tricks to kill them off. He should have just faced everyone instead of being a wuss. In Kirishima's words, doing it like a man. The heroes walked towards the living room of the HQ. While the heroes were in a depressed mood, they were trying to calm Bakugo down and brighten up the mood, but there was another explosion. It was the last day, so all of the heroes decided to go all together, not including Bakugo, saying that he could handle shitty Deku alone, but the others followed him to the explosion. They saw bots in the building and immediately went to work. Bakugo was on lookout for Discord, while the remaining people from Class 1B and Ida evacuated the civilian bots to safety. Todoroki, Uraraka, and Azui went into the building and rescued the civilian bots like how they did the other time they had to do it. After taking all of the civilian bots away from the area, all the heroes gathered in front of the new frozen building, but they heard a gunshot and red paint on Tetsu's forehead, notifying them that he was dead. They saw Discord standing in the middle of the road in front of them with a steaming gun in his hands while smirking. Midoriya's POV. I blew up another building, so I could get all the remaining heroes separated and hunt them one by one again, or attack them while they are tired from rescuing the bots. I watched silently as they did their job. Once I saw that they were finished, I thought it would be a good time for me to tell Nizu about my plan. I spoke through the intercom. Nizu, I need permission to do that. Of course. Was the answer I got from the intercom, and I smirked knowing that I got the permission. I walked casually towards the heroes, but they didn't seem to notice me, so I shot Tetsu's head, since his quirk would be troubling in this situation. After the shot, it only took a few seconds to realize that I was there. They all got into their fighting positions, while Tetsu backed away from the scene. I charged up my percentage use of my quirk to 35% and they dashed towards me at full speed. Dead heroes POV. They had just heard Discord asking Nizu permission for something they didn't know about. Does anyone know what they're talking about? Asked Mina. Nope. The room said in unison. They continued to stare at the screen and their eyes followed their killer that just shot Tetsu. Ouch, they didn't even know he was there. Kirishima stated. Momo added, well, that's because they weren't on their guard. Hagakure spoke, that's how most of Use died. They continued to watch Discord walking towards the heroes, while they got into their fighting stands. All they could think of was, what are you planning, Discord? Third-person POV. The heroes, determined to defeat the foe in front of them, started to charge at Discord at the same time. Bakugo taking the lead, firing an explosion at Discord's face, but Discord dodged it by stepping to the right and stabbing him in the arm. Right after him, Todoroki shot his ice towards me, but I backed away a few meters. The rest of the group stopped and Uraraka asked Discord a question with tears forming in her eyes. Why are you smiling? This isn't funny. You killed our teammates in brutal ways for no reason. Stop it. Discord's smirk fell and he looked up and looked the heroes straight in the eyes with rage. No reason. No reason. All of the heroes, teachers, and the dead heroes flinched at the sudden raise of voice. They never heard Midoriya shout with so much venom before. I am teaching you lessons that you might need when you become pro-heroes, and telling me to stop will not do anything. I am showing you the reality that we are living in. Villains won't stop just because you ask them to. Heroes won't stop when the villain asks them to stop trying to capture them. People won't stop when you beg for mercy. Society is a cruel place and not worth protecting. The bullying never stopped because I asked them to stop, right, Katsuki? At this point tears were flowing down Midoriya's face, while he was clutching his shirt. Not everyone in this blasted society protect the weak and quirkless, but instead they get bullied and get told to kill themselves. I trusted no one, and had to protect Mislef and others by Mislef. The only one there for me was me. I thought I could count on my friends, which I only started to have after I gained a quirk. I protected them, and yet they so easily turned their back on me when I was all alone. I thought I could finally start opening up, yet at that same moment, no one was there. No one stood up for me when I needed it, yet I helped them when they were getting bullied by Katsuki. Even in UA, teachers and friends ignored my silent cries for help. No one believed in me. I hate this society and I plan on changing it, even if it's the last thing I do. Confessed Disco Dash, no Midoriya. After that little yelling spree, Midoriya was panting. His head was lowered and the heroes were frozen. The fight was forgotten for a few moments and the heroes dropped their guard down. All they could think of were questions. Is this how Midoriya really feel? How horrible was Midoriya's life? Did the bullying really affect his emotions to be like this? But many of them wanted answers. They wanted to know why society picked on the weak and the powerless. While Midoriya was still trying to calm down all his emotions that were overflowing, Uraraka whispered to the others, while her tears were fading away, I think we messed up. I don't think it's a thought, it's a fact. We left him alone when he needed out support, and yet, we were not by his side, but we were on his bullies. Ida confirmed. Todoroki said guiltily, I think the right thing to do is to talk to him after this is all over. I agree, Karo, agreed Azui. Bakugo was frozen. He had so many thoughts in that moment. Should he apologize to Deku? How was he going to make it up to him? What was the right thing to do? In the middle of all of their confused and pitted thoughts, Discord started to regain his composure, but his emotions were still have conflict inside him. Discord got into his normal fighting position, with his hands in front of his chest and legs apart. He wiped the tears off his face and hardened his expression. The heroes, now on their guard, noticed the sudden change in the mood. They also got into position before Discord activated his quirk to 50% and charged into the battle. Teacher's POV, after hearing the emotions of how Izuku Midoriya felt, there was silence. Hound Dog decided to speak up first by asking, are you sure he's mental okay, Nizu? Before I thought he was, but now after hearing that, I don't think so anymore. Answered Nizu, All Might, I think it's best for you to talk to him. Okay. Replied All Might. So this is how Midoriya really felt, asked Present Mike. Aizawa responded, yes, it probably is. Midnight added, we let Bakugo continue to bully him, so we are also like the people who he mentioned. I think it is wise for us to change and help Midoriya open up. We also should try and keep Bakugo away from Midoriya, until he changes his attitude. Snipe suggested. Well, that depends on if he continues to stay at UA. Stated Nizu. What? The teachers, except All Might, yelled in unison. Aizawa stood up and shouted, Nizu, explain, now. Well, it's just as it sounds like Aizawa. Since Midoriya was going to do things the brutal and cruel way, he thought that maybe after the event, people would hate and outcast him. He warned All Might and myself about this happening. Nizu explained. I see, Aizawa whispered to himself. If he has to move, then I support him and help him find another school as well. Aizawa said. The rest of the staff agreed by nodding their heads. It's a shame that he might go. He is an important part of Class 1A, even if he just rushes into battle and gets hurt all the time. Aizawa added. All Might nodded. The teachers thought back to all the attacks and problems that UA was a part of. Midoriya was always there to save the day. He constantly broke his bones for his friends and mentors, and yet, he was left alone once more, when he finally thought he had people he could count on. It was like betrayal to him. The UA staff pitied him and wanted to help the poor green-haired boy, so they all decided to do so, after the activity was over. Chapter 9, Light Them Up. Third-person POV. Discord charged towards Kendo with daggers in his hands. He grazed her in multiple places, but before he could finish her off, green, thorny vines headed towards him. Shiozaki was defending Kendo, while her hands were together like she was praying. Discord saw that there wasn't anyone near her, so he took out his gun while dodging Todoroki's ice and Bakugo's explosions. Once ready and loaded, Discord jumped high into the air and aimed at Shiozaki with his left eye closed. He got her straight into her head. Shiozaki was out of the game and she walked towards Tetsu, so that she wouldn't get caught up in the fight. Not noticing that Bakugo was right behind him in the air, he got blown with an explosion to the back. He gritted his teeth and was sent flying into a building. Bakugo landed on the ground and started walking up to the ruined building with Todoroki. Ida ran into the building hoping that he could retrieve Discord's body before he could react, but instead got his throat slit with a dagger. He ran in circles to try and confuse them, but Kendo used her quirk and enlarged her hands and stopped the path Discord was running. Once the heroes got him into a position, the heroes backed away and Discord was confused. Then he heard all of a sudden, release. He faced towards the sound and saw Uraraka putting her fingers together. No one was floating, so Discord wondered what she was releasing, then it hit him. He looked up and saw pieces of destroyed building up in the air. While he was taking out Shiozaki, Uraraka set to work and tried and redo the move she created when she was facing Bakugo in the sport festival. It explained why Kendo blocked certain paths of his running. It was to move him into that spot. Too bad for them, there was a lot of gaps in between the falling rumble. Discord charged up to 55% and continued to dodge the falling rumble above him. Once all the rumble came down from the sky, Uraraka was suffering from the drawback of her quirk. Azui was trying to protect her, but Discord dashed towards them. Azui tried to grab him with her tongue, but failed miserably, so she grabbed Uraraka and jumped around. Todoroki, who was trying to get Discord away from the two girls, summoned ice from his right side, but only ended up trapping the two girls with the villain. This made it easier for Discord as he pulled out his gun and shot Froppy, eliminating her. Next he ran towards Uraraka and stabbed her heart right after shooting her friend. Petrified by the speed of how Discord killed them both, she fell onto her but while Discord broke through the ice. Straight after breaking the ice, he was met with a huge fist in front of him. There was only 3 heroes left, so he thought it would be great to do that now. Discord readied his demonic voice and spoke, "Heroes, there are only 3 of you now. I congratulate you for making it this far." "What are you getting at, Discord?" asked Kendo with caution in her eyes. "What I am trying to say is that you can't save everyone," he announced, and he is a perfect example of how and why. Discord pressed a red button in his pocket, but nothing happened. The heroes were confused. What did he just do? Thought the heroes. As Bakugo was about to question the villain, loud explosions erupted. The remaining heroes who were still in the fake city looked around them and saw the whole city in cruel, crimson flames. Their eyes widened in despair. All the bots they have saved and other that they were supposed to protect all were gone in a matter of seconds. At this point the heroes had no fighting spirit left and Discord just looked at them unamused. The game was still going yet they lost all hope. He decided it would be best to end things quickly, so he went back into the battle while the heroes were in despair, like what he felt like back in middle school and the years before then. Dead heroes POV, buildings were engulfed in flames. The students watched as the city burned to the ground and felt despair creep into their mind. They were feeling despair, and it reminded them that Midoriya went through despair as he was torn down by society. Was this how he felt? Was it worse? The people who feared Midoriya were still scared, but felt bad for him. They all left him alone. Not even one of them volunteered to be a part of his team. Momo said, "I think after things are done, we all should apologize to Midoriya and try and make him happier and safer in UA." Everyone in the room gave a response signaling a yes. "Do you think it will be better for us to keep Bakubro away from Midobro?" asked Kirishima. "I think so. I mean, didn't Bakugo bully Midoriya as well? It was all in the video at the start of the activity." Jiro answered. "Wait. If that's true, then doesn't that mean All Might also crushed Midoriya's dreams?" Ojiro questioned. There was silence. Having your dreams crushed by the person you worshipped the most, must have hurt Midoriya's heart. Some people were grateful that somehow All Might made up with Midoriya and made him take the UA exam instead of Discord becoming a reality. They continued to watch the late battle, until the activity was finished. Teacher's POV, brutal, problem child. Whispered Aizawa. I understand why he thought that he might get hated and outcasted now. Stated present Mike, Midnight nodded, even if a pro hero saw the whole city get burned, they would also lose hope, even me. Welp, those students need to be in my office as soon as possible. Hound Dog demanded. All Might was silently watching how Midoriya was still bleeding a lot from his head and was beginning to worry. Midoriya already went past his limit of using one for all. His maximum limit he could handle right now was 40%, but he was using 15% more. Recovery Girl also saw how the bleeding for the boy's head was not stopping. She wanted to drag him out of the activity and treat his wounds as soon as possible, but knew that wouldn't do. Well, I am glad we only do this activity once a year. Commented Power Loader. Cementos nodded at this statement, since he and Power Loader were the ones who had to make the fake city. There were only 3 fake cities, since there was one for each year level. This year's activity has been interesting and should be an example of how lessons are learnt. Laughed Nizu, I'm so glad I recorded it. Third-person POV, the heroes reacted to the green lighting flashing around a certain somebody's figure. Kendo pushed Bakugo and Todoroki aside, letting herself been taken down by Discord. She was stabbed in multiple places, letting herself bleed out, but she said one last thing while pushing the 2 heroes. Don't lose hope. Capture the villain. This gave the boys a bit of determination. They faced off with Discord. One was his friend, who didn't believe in him and told him to give up, the other was his ex-childhood best friend, who ended up bullying him because he was quirkless. The fire in his heart stared to burn brighter and was screaming to fight. This continued during the fight. Todoroki shot ice towards Discord, while Bakugo rushed towards him. Sending explosions in his way, Bakugo tried to land a hit on Discord and punched him in the stomach. Discord fall back and Bakugo continued to beat up Discord with his quirk. This played back all the times he was beaten by other people. The bitter memories started to arise and it made Discord sour. Discord letting out his frustration powered one for all at 60% and the quirk black WHP appeared covering his body. This pushed Bakugo in. Surprise. Bakugo didn't know how much he was hurting Discord by beating him up multiple times and it brought back painful memories. As Discord stood up, the black whips that were coming out of him started to go on rampage. All Discord could see was his past self getting beat up over and over again, while begging people to stop. Todoroki and Bakugo started to dodge the whips, but they were running out of steam. They had to calm down Discord before he would do any real damage. Todoroki's POV, I saw Bakugo beating up Midoriya with his quirk, but Midoriya didn't do anything else. I wondered if I should Bakugo or not, but at that moment Midoriya screamed. His green lighting powered up, but something new appeared. It was black and it started to surround Midoriya. I saw tears form from Midoriya's eyes and heard his painful screams. I watched as the blackness fully covered him and I could no longer see the tears or hear the screams. Bakugo backed away from Midoriya and was beside me. Do you know what the F is happening, since he's your friend and all? He asked. No, you're his childhood friend, you should know. I replied. Then we both realized that we didn't really know anything about Midoriya. When we were always talking, it was always about someone else. As we were thinking, black stuff started to aim at us, but we dodged and it hit a building behind us. We turned back to see the building falling. The strength of that thing was not something we wanted to mess with, so we dodged it, but then it multiplied and went everywhere. I kept on dodging, but I was running out of energy. I had to make Midoriya stop somehow. If he continues his rampage, he might actually kill us. Bakugo's POV, I kicked and punched Deku in multiple places and without realizing, I continued and went overboard. I only realized when I heard Deku scream and him starting up his quirk. I backed away to Icy Hot and saw a black thing surround shitty Deku. It looked like a new power, but it was like it was consuming him. I asked, do you know what the F is happening, since he's your friend and all, to Icy Hot, but he had the nerve of replying like, no, you're his childhood friend, you should know. What the F? I haven't had a normal conversation with shitty Deku and he says this. We watched as Deku was consumed by the black stuff and now he was aiming it at us. We dodged and the building behind took the hit, but it fell right after. That black SHT has a lot of power of a thin-looking thing. I continued to dodge with Icy Hot, but I was getting tired and I saw he was too. The F thing multiplied and was rampaging. Deku was not stopping any time soon. How do you F calm down shitty Deku? Chapter 10, Rampage, Dead, Heroes POV, What's happening to Midobro? Kirishima shouted as he was pointing towards the screen. I don't know. Answered Zero, we never saw that black stuff before. Class 1A was worrying for their classmates and Class 1B was wondering what was going to happen next. Midoriya's screams were heard through the screen and people flinched at the sound of it. His screams sound so painful. Commented Kaminari. We know Kaminari. Replied Mina, we know, but what we don't know is why he is screaming like that. That darkness seems to be consuming Midoriya by the feet upwards. I don't think he can control it. Stated Tokoyami. Hagakure yelled, so he's rampaging. You can you that. Answered Tokoyami. The room was filled with concern to what will happen to the heroes on the battlefield. Teacher's POV, when Midoriya was consumed by the darkness, All Might yelled, what the hell is happening? Aren't we supposed to ask you that, since you teach him the most? Asked Aizawa. Well, I didn't teach him that. Exclaimed All Might, Nizu. I think it is something new that activated just now. Concluded Nizu. It probably has to do with his emotions, since Bakugo beating him up probably brought back unpleasant memories for him. Should we stop him? Questioned Midnight. No, watch for now. Ordered Nizu. The teachers sat down and continued to watch the battle unfold, ready to jump in whenever it was needed. Heroes person POV, Todoroki and Bakugo seemed to have the same idea and nodded to each other. Todoroki ran up towards Midoriya, so that he would be able to hear the words he was about to say, but the black whips were always moving. Bakugo following after Todoroki, he also got closer to darkness and made his shout the loudest he could muster. Oh, Deku, I know you can hear me, so stop rampaging and calm your motherfucking butt down. I'm sorry for all that happened in the past, okay? I will make it up to you, so don't try and kill anyone. Calm down and control whatever this is. Midoriya, please calm down and control the darkness. At this rate you might actually kill someone with that power. Yelled Todoroki. We will stand by you and will never leave your side. Now that we know how you really feel, we want to gain your trust once more and help you through the bad times. Please allow us to do that. Midoriya's POV, I could only feel pain, anger and hatred. It was painful. The sting in my eyes were from all of the tears I had cried and sharp throbbing in my chest, which felt like it wanted to burst out. Words repeated in my head that made all the pain worse. Crouching down with my head in between my legs and hands over my ears, trying to make the pain go away, but it didn't. All I could do was try and fight the pain, thinking of my mother, my mentors and friends I had made throughout the year, but with every memory had a dark side towards it. Then all of a sudden I heard two familiar voices. They were telling me to control something. What was I supposed to control? Was it the pain? How would I even do that? I wanted everything to stop and go away, but I heard an apology from one of the voices and it made some of the pain fade away. I tried and think of who the voices belonged to and then I remembered. It was Katsuki and Todoroki. I lifted my head and stood tall and strong, remembering all the good memories that I have made with the people I cared for. The darkness surrounding me slowly faded away into a bright white and I closed my eyes. Third-person POV, the darkness slowly faded and revealed a panting green-haired boy, who was clenching his shirt and had his eyes closed. Once he opened them he saw the sight of buildings destroyed and tired-looking heroes who were on the ground panting as well. Once they all caught their breaths, Todoroki gave a small smile towards Midoriya who was just staring at him. Midoriya gave a small smile back and faced Bakugo, who had his arms crossed with a neutral facial expression. Midoriya asked Bakugo, "Katsuki, do you really mean what you said?" Bakugo sighed and said, "Yes, you DMN nerd. I actually mean it. I am sorry for what I did to you in the past, okay?" It was silent, but then tears started to run down Midoriya's shocked face. Todoroki and Bakugo widened their eyes at this. They didn't know if he would accept the apology or did he want something else. "Oi, you okay Deku?" asked Bakugo in confusion. Midoriya tried to wipe the tears with a smile, but they kept going, "Yes, I'm fine. I'm just very happy, Kaken." Everyone was shocked by the fact that Midoriya called Bakugo by his nickname, since Midoriya hadn't called him that ever since the game started. When the tears stopped flowing Midoriya gave them the biggest, brightest smile he ever shown anyone. Dead Heroes POV, they were glad that Midoriya was able to lose all the darkness and people were shocked at Bakugo's apology. Bakubabe apologized. "Is the world ending?" joked Mina. "No, it's not, but Bakugo is apologizing for the first time, I guess," Shoji said. Momo nodded. "I'm just glad that those two made up after a long bad friendship, but I think nothing will really change between the two." They continued to watch and they saw Midoriya start crying. "Whoa there. Why is Midoriya crying?" asked Kaminari. Zero hit the back of his head and answered, "It's because he is happy that Bakugo apologized, you dummy." "That's so sweet." The girls squealed. When Midoriya gave them the smile, most people were thinking, "Too bright," or, "Is this the same person that killed me?" Teacher's POV, "See, I told you that it would be fine." Nizu exclaimed. "It's good that you were correct, Nizu." All Might said, "But young Bakugo apologizing was not something I would expect." The other UA staff nodded. "Do you think their relationship will get better?" asked Midnight. Aizawa shrugged. "Who knows? Too bright." Screamed Present Mike, "What's bright?" questioned Lunch Rush. "His smile," replied Power Loader, who was pointing to the screen with his head facing the other way. All the staff faced towards the screen and met with the blinding smile of Izuku Midoriya. Third-person POV, after the blinding smile, Midoriya spoke, "Let's end this here." And the heroes agreed. They all took their fighting positions and activated their quirks. Midoriya powered 1 for all to 60% knowing that Bakugo and Todoroki would be hard to defeat. Todoroki activated his right side and not his left because he doesn't have full control of it. Bakugo had small explosions in his hands popping and ready to go. Then they all ran towards each other. Chapter 11, Limit Third-Person POV, the remaining students began to run towards each other with their quirks activated. Discord flicked his fingers and a force of air was sent towards Todoroki and Bakugo. They both dodged but went into different directions. Discord planned on taking out Todoroki before Bakugo, since he had long-range quirk and if he was left alone, he would be able to use his left side without worrying about injuring his teammate. It was the safer option in that situation. Discord rushed towards him, while Bakugo was trying to get a hit on Discord. Bakugo followed after Discord and saw that he was after Todoroki. Bakugo immediately tried and explode Discord far away, but at the range of how far they were from each, the explosion wouldn't even hit. Discord was in front of Todoroki in the matter of seconds and he punched Todoroki in the stomach sending him flying into a building, but slowly got up. Bakugo tried and distract Discord away from Todoroki, but he didn't. Discord threw mini daggers that caught onto Todoroki's hero costume and pinned him to the building. Todoroki couldn't move and could no longer offer Bakugo support. He could only watch as those two fought each other. Dead, heroes POV, no, Todoroki, screamed Mina at the sight of Todoroki getting pinned to the building. Baku bro. You're our only hope for us to win this game. Cheered Kirishima. Momo busted his bubble by saying, Kirishima, we already lost. Most of us are dead because of one villain. In real life, once you lose half of the heroes, you would call for backup and that backup would be a pro hero in the top 10 and others. Stupid. Whispered Jiro. Hey. Don't call my best bud stupid. What's wrong with cheering his teammates? Asked Kaminari. Ojiro replied, there is nothing wrong with that, but who is cheering for Midoriya? He has no teammates. Thanks to Ojiro's statement, the mood in the room dampened. Midoriya had no teammates and worked on this all by himself, without anyone's help, while they all played and did whatever they wanted into the time he was planning. Teacher's POV, that's a smart move. Vlad King commented. It's better to get the people with long-range quirks out, before moving on to the close combat quirk types. Aizawa nodded, I might need to focus on teaching those long-range quirk students to hand-to-hand combat. It would be useful in the future. I wonder what young Bakugo will do now. Will he try and free young Todoroki? All Might asked. But if he did that, it would leave an opening for Discord to attack him. Also pulling out all those mini daggers will take time. Midnight stated. They all faced towards the screen wondering what Bakugo would do in that situation and how Discord will plan his next move. Third-person POV, Bakugo sent another explosion to Discord, hitting him in his left leg. Discord's left leg turned into a bright red and was stinging, but he countered by flicking Bakugo, sending him backwards to a few meters. Discord grabbed something in his jacket while Bakugo tried to regain his balance. Bakugo rushed towards Discord while panting. Discord fired multiple shots, but didn't even hit Bakugo. The angry Pomeranian dodged to the right and used his explosions to push him away from all the bullets, but what he forgot was that there was a stuck Peppermint who was shot in the head. Once he was out, Uraraka, Ida, Azui, Shiozaki, Tetsu and Kendo pulled all the mini knives, freeing him from the wall. Kaken, did you forget that there was someone behind you? Giggled Discord. What? Bakugo thought, but then realized what he meant. I see why hot. He yelled as he turned back to see the other, dead, heroes pulling him out of the wall, while he had red paint on his forehead. As he turned his back towards the enemy, Discord took the chance he created and used one for all to boost his movement towards Bakugo. Bakugo was too late, Discord was now right under his chin. Discord, who still had the gun in his hands, faced the gun upwards to Bakugo's chin and fired the gun. Red paint splat onto Bakugo's chin and the speakers around the fake city began to scream. Last hero has fallen, villains win. The heroes on the field clapped there together and strolled over towards Bakugo and Midoriya. Midoriya deactivated his quirk and breathed. Seeing that the opposing team was headed over to him, Midoriya started to walk in the other direction. Bakugo noticed this and tried to grab his right wrist, but Midoriya lifted his hand like he knew what Bakugo was going to do and continued to walk away. Once the others reached Bakugo, Midoriya was gone and they were all only staring in the direction he went. "What happened?" asked Kendo. Bakugo's hands dropped and said, "Tch. Just let him be." And walked away. The rest followed him and they made their way to the entrance of the city meeting with their other teammates. Meanwhile with Midoriya, he headed towards the teacher's room. Once he opened the door, he was met with all of UA's staff's stares. He bowed slightly and closed the door behind him. Once he did, he headed towards All Might and Nizu. His head was hung low and he whispered, "I'm a monster." Every teacher in that room heard the statement because of the silence in the room, but before they could refuse the statement was true, Midoriya started to collapse backwards. Thanks to All Might's quick reflex, he was able to catch Midoriya just before he hit the ground. "Problem child!" shouted Aizawa along with the other teachers screaming out his name. "Young Midoriya!" All Might said as he shook the unconscious body in his hands. Recovery Girl pushed the crowd away from the boy and demanded, "Give me the boy." All Might listened to Recovery Girl and handed Midoriya to her. She examined Midoriya and put her hand over his head, but removed it right after. "He's like this because he has a very high fever and he collapsed because of the lose. He should be fine, after all this time he didn't break a single bone," she concluded. The staff members sighed and chuckled after the little comment Recovery Girl made. But it would take a while for him to get better. At this the teachers stopped making noise again and looked concerned. She continued, "He pushed his limits, right All Might?" All Might nodded and said, "He used 60% even though his current limit is 40%. The teacher's sweat dropped. "No wonder he just passed out. That's 20% more than his limit. That's why his energy is low and has a very high fever. It's best if I keep him until he gets better." Recovery explained, "Knowing him, once he gets up, he will probably go to you All Might and start training, increasing his temperature." Present Mike laughed, "Yep, that's Midoriya, but will he stay at UA in the end?" "It depends on how the other students react to him," said Snipe. "Let's hope for the best," cheered Midnight. The rest of the teachers faced towards Midoriya smiling, while Recovery Girl tried and cool his forehead down. After, All Might carried Midoriya to the infirmary with Aizawa and Recovery Girl walking beside him. He laid the young boy down on a bed, while Aizawa closed the curtains surrounding the bed, so no one would find him. The two male teachers walked out of the room, leaving Recovery Girl treating Midoriya. Students POV, all of the students were at the entrance of the city and were heading back into their dorms. Along the way they were chatting away. We lost," complained Mina. "Well, we didn't really prepare anything for this event," stated Todoroki with his usual expression. Mina faced towards him and pouted, "Still, I would have liked it if we did win. But we didn't put much effort into the plan and were carefree for the whole 4 days we were given," explained Ida, while Midoriya gave his all into the plan and deserved to win. "I'm so glad Midoriya is a hero student and didn't take the road of chaos and evil," Jiro stated as she shivered. The rest agreed with her, while shivering at the memory of Discord's toxic green, glowing eyes. "Yes, that's true. If he were a villain, Japan is doomed," Ojiro added, and there was another round of nods. "Also, Ida, Todoroki, Bakugo, Uraraka and Azuri, we plan to apologize to Midoriya once we see him." "Are you as well?" Momo asked. "Yes, we are going to as well. Why don't we apologize to him as a whole class?" suggested Uraraka. "Ha! I already apologized and don't plan to do it again," shouted Bakugo. Kirishima looped his right arm around Bakugo's neck and said, "Come one Bakubro, one more time wouldn't hurt." Bakugo was irritated and threw off Kirishima's hand and stomped away. The rest of the class just sighed after seeing Bakugo being his normal self and continued to head their ways to the dorm. Chapter 12, Final Third-Person POV. "Hey guys, have you seen Midoriya?" asked Kaminari as all of the hero students were all heading towards the assembly hall for their review. "No, ever since yesterday's event finished, we haven't seen Midoriya. Zero answered. Everyone in Class 1A was worried for Midoriya, since he never returned to the dorms last night and no one had heard any news of him. They continued on their way to the assembly hoping to see him in there. Once they reached to the assembly hall, no one saw signs on Midoriya and just waited for the teachers, while they all continued to have their own conversations. When the teachers started to appear in the stages, the students slowly quieted down and faced the stage. Hello students. Welcome the principal. I hope you all learned something from the activity, but since you all were in the hero team and lost, you have to do a punishment. I will explain it at the end, but now, we will go over the footage and label your mistakes and what you should have learned during the exercise. The teachers got off of the stage and sat in the chairs behind the students, so that the students could see the screen on the stage. The teachers played the footage, fast-forwarding and stopping on the parts where they pointed out the mistakes and the improvements that each student needed to work on. So, in conclusion, I would say the lessons you should have learned is, never let your guard down, nowhere is truly safe, always have attention of the things around you, check for traps, you can't save everyone. And never surrender to villains, especially if they are stronger, since you never know if they will keep their word. Concluded Nizu. The students nodded at Nizu's statement and promised to change their way of doing things. Since things looked like it was finishing, Kaminari raised his hand up. Yes Kaminari. Asked Midnight. Kaminari lowered his hand and spoke. Where's Midoriya? Most of the students mentally face-palmed after Kaminari asked the question so straightforward. The teachers sighed and one of them decided to speak up. He's in the infirmary. Why? Aizawa questioned with his brow raised. There were gasped and eyes widened. Then, all of a sudden the whole hero course screamed, what? The assembly was in uproar. They didn't see Midoriya after the event because he was in the infirmary. There were questions thrown around the room. Why is he in the infirmary? Is he okay? How bad is his condition? Wait, wasn't he bleeding from the head, arms and legs before in the last battle? That statement calmed down all the screams and silenced all the other questions and everyone faced the principal for the answer. He just smiled and said, yep, he is being treated at the very moment and no one is allowed to visit him at the time being. Why? Called out Uraraka, why can't we see Deku-kun? Well Uraraka, let me ask this question to the whole hero course. After all this, will you be able to act the same around Midoriya after all of the actions he did in the activity? Asked Nizu, please answer honestly. The assembly hall was once silent again. They all thought, could we really act the same way as before around him? The moment of silence was broken by none other than Katsuki Bakugo. Of course. Shitty DKU is shitty DKU and I'm not afraid of that motherfucking nerd. Others soon joined him and the whole hall was screaming that they would overcome their fear of discord and that they would act their normal selves when they were with Midoriya. Once the screaming calmed down, there was a comment that everyone heard. Just remind me to never PSS off Midoriya. Mineta said. The other students and teachers laughed at the comment and once they calmed down, All Might spoke. I'm glad that you all won't act differently towards young Midoriya. He thought you all would hate and outcast him after the activity. People frowned at this, but All Might continued. I'm also glad we don't have to find another school for young Midoriya. Nizu nodded. We wouldn't want you or your successor to leave UA, now would we? The whole hall except All Might and Nizu, yelled, what? The students yelled, he was planning on leaving UA. While the teachers yelled, All Might's successor. Yeah. All Might replied. Midoriya's POV, I feel hot and sweaty. I opened my eyes and saw a familiar ceiling. I'm back in the infirmary, but I don't remember breaking any bones. I touched my head, arms and legs, which were bandaged up and felt a sting in the spots I touched. I turned my head to the right and saw Recovery Girl on her computer doing who knows what. I sat up and she immediately noticed and walked over. Young man, I wouldn't recommend you get up so soon. Your temperature finally went down and you should be tired after going 20% over your limits. I wondered, 20% over my limit. And remembered that I collapsed after I walked over to Nizu and All Might. I made a mistake. I didn't listen to Recovery Girl's recommendation and got out of the bed. What are you doing? She asked. Since it looks like it's morning, don't I have to go to the review? I asked. Oh no you don't. You stay in bed. She ordered. I bowed at a right angle and said, sorry, but I really must see the review. She sighed, fine, but I will be coming with you, got it? I raised up head to agree and thank her. Then we were on the way to the assembly hall, but once we got there, it was really loud. All I heard was, he was planning on leaving UA, and, All Might's successor, then I knew that Nizu and All Might revealed some things. Since Recovery Girl and I were at that door entrance of the assembly hall, which was at the back to the room and everyone was facing Nizu and All Might who was on the stage, no one noticed us. Then Recovery Girl coughed to signal that we were there and all the attention went to us. Everyone's eyes widened, except Nizu, since he already knew we were there and I waved embarrassedly. Hi. I said. Midoriya. The students from the hero course shouted. I was taken back because I thought they wouldn't even talk to me after how brutal I was in the activity, but I don't know any more. There was silence, an awkward one, but it seemed as though my other fellow hero course students were planning something, since they kept looking at each other and nodding. I waited for the worst, but Momo and Kendo counted down to 3 and everyone yelled. We're sorry Midoriya for not realizing how you felt. Please forgive us. They all bowed down, well except Kaken who also apologized, but he was looking away from me. I was surprised. Wasn't I supposed to do this? After all I did brutal things to them in the activity and all. I smiled and I replied, of course. When I smiled I saw all of the people in the room squint. I wonder what caused that, but whatever. Maybe this is a new beginning where I can be myself, but this brought back a question that I always asked myself. Can I trust them?